Good afternoon and welcome to all of you guys. Thank you for joining us today on this third webinar sponsored by the Lewis Prize for Music. We here at the Lewis Prize have an open grant cycle right now called the Accelerator Awards. And the purpose of this webinar is that we'll be sharing more about who we are at the Lewis Prize and the application process for the Accelerator Awards. My name is Annette Fritchie, and I'm calling in today from my home in San Diego and joined by three of my colleagues to help lead this webinar and three other colleagues behind the scenes too. Throughout this webinar, if there are questions that you have about our foundation, about our process, we encourage you to, at the bottom of your screen in the Q&As, to throw in those questions. Towards the end of this call, we will start answering those questions live for you. If we don't have enough time, we're going to be out of here within 60 minutes. If we don't answer your question, we have recorded them all, and we will be replying an email to all of the questions that are asked today. So please don't hesitate to ask anything as it comes up. I'm going to pass it off and have my colleague Alexis introduce herself.
Hi, good afternoon. Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you all. My name is Alexis Jackson, and I work with the Lewis Prize for Music on our knowledge and data team. And I'm calling in from my home here in New Orleans, Louisiana. And I'll pass it off to Annalise.
Hi, everyone. My name is Annalise. I work for the Lewis Prize as the executive assistant, and I'm calling in from Yuma, Arizona. And I will pass it to...
I'll take it right back. Thank you. All right, so before we pop in more to this webinar, like I said, this is our third webinar of this season. We have a poll for you guys. We would love to know, is this the first Lewis Prize webinar you're attending this year, or have you attended one of our previous two? Awesome. As those answers are coming in, we'll continue on into our presentation today. The results are coming in that this is a first webinar for most people on this call. So we'll be sure that we are thorough about things. There is a question in the Q&A already that's asking, is this similar content to the very first webinar? And the answer to that is yes. Our very first webinar was very informative and informational, and this one will also be. All right. So moving on in our presentation, we can go to the next slide. Thank you. Today's conversation, how it's going to flow is we'll share more about us at the Lewis Prize and this foundation. Then we'll give an overview of the Accelerator Awards application process, changes that may have existed in the past, and then it'll be open to Q&A. And moving on to share more about the Lewis Prize is Alexis.
Okay, so the Lewis Prize for Music, we were founded as a national philanthropic foundation by Daniel Lewis with the focus of being able to support youth music programs, specifically creative youth development music programs. He gave us a commitment of 5 years, and we're currently starting year 5 of that award. Very excited to see what happens next. But the work here with us is to support these leaders and programs that uplift CYD through music, leadership, equity, vision, and systems change with their work, and then also really center the voices of youth and young people in their work and infuse that youth voice throughout their entire process. With the next slide here will be a vision or just a viewing of just our entire staff. We are a pretty small team spread out all over the country, as well as our incredible board. Working really hard to be able to learn more about CYD and youth music and share that out with you all and support you all. Our next slide here is then going to show just what we stand for in our equity statement. And we believe that thriving and vibrant communities can only be achieved through equitable systems. We aim to award ambitious organizations who are already strengthening young people through rigorous and diverse music programs and influencing systems so that all young people can develop greater agency over their lives and contribute positively to their communities. And we do this again through creative youth development, or CYD as we shorten it. It describes programs that blend excellence in artistic instruction with principles of positive youth development practice. More information about CYD and its growth as a field can be found at the Creative Youth Development National Partnership, which we'll share out with you in this link comment there. And also, we'd love to know with another poll here is, do you use the term creative youth development or CYD to describe your work? So some of the options there with that poll are yes, all of the time, occasionally, only in grants, or never. So please share with us how you use CYD. Got some responses coming in. And it looks like a good amount of you, almost 50%, rarely or never use CYD. And then a good portion, about a quarter of you, are say often when describing your work. So that's great and really on par with what we've seen in previous webinars in the field. So awesome. And I'll pass the next slide over to Annalise.
Yes, thank you, Alexis. So now that we've shared about our foundation, let's chat about the Accelerator Awards in this specific grant cycle. We have one application and one application cycle. Organizations don't apply for a specific amount of funding since the process is all one application and we fund from there. All applications go through the same process, and those most aligned with the goals of the Accelerator Awards are funded at the top, and then funding narrows down to finalists and semifinalists. We also give a $1,000 grant to all organizations that we invite to advance onto the second round. And going into the next slide, you will see an infographic that walks through the application process from now, the opening of receiving applications, to the end in early January 2024 when we announce the top 3 awardees. And so I'll give you a moment to just view that. And then on to the next slide. This is our timeline for, back to the infographic. And then on to the next slide. This is our timeline for Accelerator Awards 2024. So as you can see, we have round 1 applications open in June, and then round 2 applications are invited to submit additional materials July 6th through the 28th. Finalists are invited to complete a request for proposal and host a virtual site visit September 11th through October 20th, and awardees are announced publicly and funds are given January 2024. And so I will pass it on to Alexis.
Muted, I'm back, hello. So looking at the past 4 years of application cycles, and one thing that we really do our best here at the Lewis Prize to do is really take feedback from all of our applications and grant cycles and do our best to adjust and evolve our application so that it works best for the folks that are applying for it. So it has changed a little bit over the past 4 years. It is pretty identical to last year. However, there is a larger word count with a couple of additional questions. If you did apply last year, you'll see in your accepted platform that your answers will be pre-populated. Just be sure to go through those answers and make sure that they are current for this fiscal year and correct for what you're applying for. And also there are 66% fewer narrative questions than 3 years ago. So we took some feedback hearing that the application was too long and shortened it, condensed it, and made it work better for time needed. The Accelerator Awards funds an entire organization and it is not program related. So when you are applying for the award, keep in mind that you're talking about the impact of your entire organization. Another tip is to please upload your musical example a few days before. We are coming up on that deadline here. And just keep in mind that the accepted platform can get a little bogged down with all of the media being uploaded to it within those last few days of the application coming to a close. So please just do your best to get those in as soon as possible, just to prevent any lag or delays in getting your full application uploaded. The long answers should take between 2 and 4 hours to complete. And throughout all those long and narrative answers, we are looking for not only evidence of REDI language, but also evidence of youth voice and youth leadership spread throughout all the things that you're discussing with how your organization impacts the community. And next slide, I'll go into a little bit into eligibility. First things first about eligibility with the youth in your organization. The youth must be in the age range of between 6 and 21 years old. Your program can absolutely serve and provide services for those outside of that age range, but we are looking for programs where the bulk of that work is done with young people between 6 and 21. Those youth must also learn, create, and perform music for at least 50% of their overall program participation time. So even if your program is multidisciplinary or has other youth development programming going on, to get our funding, we really need to see music learning happening for half of their time in the program. And then also just looking at the program and the work, we're looking to see that your program that has been underway or in operation beginning in or before 2018. So we're looking to see about 5 years of program operations as we look to see how your program is working and moving through the work. Also looking for orgs that are an independent 501c3 or has a partnership with a fiscal sponsor. You must reside in the U.S. or the U.S. territories. And your young people must also, that you serve must also reside in the U.S. or the U.S. territories. Your program must also operate independently of schools or school music programs. So we're looking for those after-school programs that operate outside of school hours. Any questions about that, please email us or ask if there's any things that you don't understand about how to know if you're eligible because of that. We get that there's programming happening all throughout the school day, but we are looking for those after school hours. We are looking for programs that provide consistent and ongoing participation opportunities for youth that sequentially build skills and relationships over time. So ideally, a multi-year music program. So those one-time music classes or short-term workshops or short-term summer camps are not quite eligible. Again, any questions about that, please reach out and ask us. And then additionally, 40% of your board of directors and our management staff must reside in or represent the community served. That's up to you to decide what that looks like in terms of residing in, but we're really looking to see the connectedness of your staff and board to your participant base. And then also, just to pause and just explain REDI, but that we mean racial equity, diversity, and inclusion programming. So really, we're looking to see how you're using that inclusion programming throughout all of your work as well. So with the next slide on leadership for eligibility, sorry, one second. We're looking for the leaders of the organization to write the application. We really are wanting the leader to write the application, and we're asking that because we really want to hear from the leader's voice what the work looks like and what the organization is doing in the field. The leader must have been in their role of leader for beginning in or before 2021. So we're looking for about 2 years of that leadership experience in that role. And we're also defining leader as someone who reports directly to and is solely supervised by the board of directors. So in many cases, that is the executive director of the entire organization. And also with the leader, we're looking for them to reside in the local community where the work or the program is located. Again, that's up to you to determine what that looks like, because we understand that communities and cities look different all across the US, but we're looking to see, again, the connectedness of the leader to the participants in the program. And I'll pass that along.
Right. Thanks, Alexis, for going through our eligibility and further explaining stuff. So now if you're ready to apply, we're going to just walk you through the application process. So this is all done on a platform called accepted.com. The link to the platform is going into chat right now. When you get there, the page will look like this on your screen. On the left-hand side, start your application. You'll click there. A drop-down menu will open and it'll show you, let's go to the next slide. Excellent, there it is. So 2024 Accelerator Awards is what we're looking for. It's the only program that's opened. Go ahead and click apply to the 2024 Accelerator Awards, and then it'll bring you to this screen, which is where you sign into your account. If you have applied with us or other organizations that have used Accepted Platform, you'll be a returning applicant. So you'll type in your email address and password. If you're a new applicant, bottom of the screen there, and you'll sign up and create your platform or create your account. Super important, this next slide, for those that are making their accepted login for the first time. If you're a new applicant, please select the left-hand choice here, the account type, saying that you are applying for yourself. This is really wonky wording here. Just trust us. It's how the accepted platform is created. Choose the option on the left, and then the Lewis Prize application comes up, and it'll be very obvious that you're really applying for your organization. And then once you get inside, here is the application for the Accelerator Awards this year. There's 4 sections to it. As we've kind of touched on, the first section is the eligibility of questions. It's just going to list those 12 things that Alexis went through to make sure that you're eligible. You'll read through them and then let yes or no. If you don't meet the eligibility, please don't apply. We will not look at applications that don't meet the eligibility. And so you guys, your time is super valuable. If it's not in alignment this year, please wait and don't apply this year if you guys don't meet that eligibility. The second section of the application is general information. The third is the long answers. And then the fourth are the 2 musical uploads. We'll kind of go through those a little bit more in depth. Annalise, will you explain more of those four sections?
Yes, definitely. So with step 1 eligibility, you must be able to answer yes on all the questions, and that'll be about 2 minutes. Step 2 is general information, and that's information about you, your organization, and your community. That'll be about 15 to 30 minutes. And then step 3 is long answers. It takes a bit longer, but it includes the organization overview, big idea, racial equity and inclusion, youth leadership, partners, and systems change. That takes about 2 to 4 hours. And the final section of it is uploading music samples. So that's culminating project or final performances, or something that shows the process of your work, like a rehearsal, interview, etc.
Great. So now I'll go into just section by section what we're looking for out of those answers. So the first question, or the first section, is the organizational overview. It's going to be not that general information section, but the first long answer section, where we want you, we're looking to learn about your organization, your young people, your team, your music program, and the other direct supports that are going on in your program. So really looking to share how your program is relevant to your community through that. We're looking to see, more about the character of your organization, the relationship and the relevance within your community with your organization as well. And just to really better understand how the people and the young people and how the music program and other direct services are used towards your big idea. And the next section is also going to be the big idea. So this is also where the leader voice for us is so important. It's where we better learn what the vision what the big idea that you have that reimagines or intervenes with systems to achieve equity. So your big idea is probably not going to be your org's mission statement. It's not going to be your program or program design structure. It's going to be more so how your work is contributing to or creating a more equitable community, not just for those in your program. So how is music used as a transformational tool to help see those young people find success in their lives? And then the next slide, I'm going to pass over to Annalise.
Yes, thank you. So racial equity and inclusion. So with this, we noticed that a lot of organizations have published racial equity statements. We support that and know that those are really important. We found that the answers that don't necessarily tell us those ready statements, but rather show us what those statements look like in practice, score better. So for example, what would a ready statement or practice look like for your organization on a Tuesday afternoon? And how does your work display those practices and embody these practices as a way of life? And moving on to the next slide, we talk about youth leadership, and this is more of the same thing, but more so focusing on the youth as an individual. So not just a position, but also power. Displaying how that youth is actually working out the mission statement of that organization instead of just being there for photo ops. And I will pass that on to Annette.
So the next long answer question is about your community partners. We know if you are working in your community, if you are working towards systems change, and that's what your guys' focus is all around, you're not doing that alone, but you're linked arms with those around you. So we'd love to hear about who those community partners are and how do you all work together. So the question's just asking, describing who those partners are. What do those partnerships look like when you're solidarily pursuing that big idea together to achieve systems change? We'd really like to know, how do you work reciprocally and intentionally together towards that big idea? Just some feedback we've received in the past from those on the review panel is they've really shared that this question a lot of times separates some applications from each other. We know organizations, you guys don't work solely, you're not siloed off, but how are your partnerships linked and how are you reciprocally working? So it's not just a matter of bullet points telling us who those partners are, but telling us how that work comes together. That's what we're looking for in this question. And Alexis will tell us about systems change.
Yeah, so the next section is going to be a multiple checkbox question, but it is going to be on systems change. So here again at the Lewis Prize, we have a really big focus on how our grantees and awardees enacting systems change in their communities throughout their work. And we do that through seeing how they're impacting those macro and the civic systems in their community. So some examples of the macro are going to be cultural preservation, racial justice, immigrant inclusion, gender and LGBTQI+A work, equity work, disability justice, things like that. For civic system change, we're looking for the education systems change, child welfare, correctional justice systems change. Are you doing workforce or youth employment work, housing and shelter work? And again, we see that applicants do best here is when there's evidence and their narrative questions that really reflect what they're actually doing tangibly with those choices that they select in this question. So if you're doing youth employment work, if you're doing work with housing and shelter, if you're doing work with those who are in the immigrant population, be sure to better explain those answers here and select those there. That way we see how you're really doing that systems change throughout your arts education work. Are you supporting your youth in your program doing this work out in the community, right? How does that look for you in terms of actual impact with your community? And the next slide, I'll hand off to Annalise for uploads.
Yes, so with application uploads, these are pretty simple. They don't need to be so high definition or special. We honestly just want to see the essence of your mission statement. So it includes a video or audio upload or link of your young people performing music from the last 2 years that displays all or most of the following elements: rigor, musical artistry, personal expression, youth leadership, cultural identity, enthusiastic engagement of the young people performing. And then part 2 of that would be a video or upload of a link of a rehearsal, youth or family interview, or program experience that showcases artistic and developmental growth, or social interventions that show youth leadership. So this is the last section of the application. Each applicant needs to upload 2 different videos of young performing. And if you already have videos online, you can write the web address on a Word doc and upload it as a PDF to this section. And we've had some questions come in asking about the quality of the videos. Like I said in the beginning, from a past reviewer, since that's what I used to do before I started this position, I do want to let you all know that the quality of the video production is less important than the content of the video. Viewers are really looking to see the expression of the music that is being made and the young people's enthusiasm versus the high-end production. And we see videos that were obviously shot from a smartphone, but we're not taking off points for that. And so with that, I'll pass it to Annette.
All right, so that's kind of an overview of the whole application. Again, that general information section, we just went through all that long answer questions and then the 2 video uploads as well. So once your applications are submitted, the deadline is Friday, June 2nd at 5 p.m. Pacific time. the application absolutely closes at that time and isn't opened again. The applications are then sent out to external reviewers. So we at the Lewis Prize, our staff team does not do the review process for this. We have a team of external individuals that have partnered with us, and they read through the applications. They have a rubric. We give them a rubric that goes on the values of the Accelerator Awards, and then the external reviewers make the recommendations of who should advance. So if you're curious, who are these reviewers? They're just a group of incredible individuals. We have 24 of them in the first round. All of the reviewers, they're people who love creative youth development. They love your work. They're crazy about it. A third of the review team are young adults between the ages of 19 and 25, and 2/3 of the review panel are over the age of 25. We try to really diversify the review panel as far as age, race, gender, geography, lived and professional experience, their expertise in music and the arts, different musical genres, because we know all of your guys' work is so unique. And so we want to make sure, as best of our ability, that they're being read by people who are familiar with your communities, familiar with your type of music, stuff like that. So that's kind of who the reviewers are. We did an open call for nominations. We received just under 100 nominations for reviewers, which was really encouraging. Thank you all for those that submitted yourselves or other people's names too. And that's who the reviewers are. Annalise, as she shared, she was an external reviewer with us before she came on staff. Yeah. And so we also just want to share this next slide. This is a list of resources. The slide deck from today's presentation, we will email out to you as well, anyone who RSVP'd to this webinar, so you will get these slides. But then these are just some helpful links we think are useful as well. So this first link is to the Lewis Prize website, and it's specifically a page about our application process last year. On this page, you'll see who the reviewers were. You'll see last year's application, and we even published last year's rubric that the reviewers used. As Alexis shared, this year's application is very similar to last year's, and so the rubric's pretty similar as well. So we encourage you to go to that link. There's also on our website a link to FAQs. I know you guys have individual questions. There's a bunch that a lot of people ask as well. So we've compiled some frequently asked questions there. And if there's specific questions that you have, because it's just really specific to your organization, which we know exists, please send us that question through our contact page, lewisprize.contact-us. We read all of those and all of them get replied to. And then Alexis is going to share a few other resources here.
Yes, and so also a big bulk of our work, aside from our granting process, is doing a good amount of research and study into the CYD field. You'll see here we have two reports that we've done recently. The first is going to be from a COVID study called Midcasting Towards Just Futures report. This is an incredible look into really where we really began to see how those macro and civic systems change topics really came into play, and really where we began to see how that was really an incredibly impactful and defining attributes to strong CYD programs that we were funding especially. Additionally, we have our Signing from the Heartlands report. That's a look into rural music programs and look into what rural programs are doing in the CYD field, how that differs from those more urban or those more larger budgeted programs. We also have a bunch of award videos and essays from our past awardees and grantees that share more about what they're doing and what they have done. And all three of these resources really give you a great look into seeing not just where we feel the CYD field is going, but really who we're granting and who we're seeing as having a strong impact in youth voice, those systems change work, through partnerships, all of that. So really a lot of your questions can be answered, I would say, by just going through those reports and looking to see what we're finding to be really unique in the field currently. And next slide.
Awesome. That's great. Alexis, Annalise, thank you guys so much for joining us, three of us together here. Next, we're going to open up to the Q&As. And so questions from you. We already have a handful that have come in that are great questions, excited to answer. And there's a handful of questions that you all sent in your RSVP forms too. So we'll try our best to get there. And the first question that we're going to go with is there a maximum size for applications in terms of budget? That's a beautiful question. And I'm going to answer that too. Is there a minimum size for budget? The answer is no, there's no minimum and there's no maximum. We have applications that come in from strictly volunteer-based organizations to organizations that have million-plus budgets. So everyone is eligible here at the Lewis Prize. I will say, and yes, and you'll see a list of our past awardees as well. And you'll see that we have given a $500,000 awardees to multiple organizations with very small budgets, as well as multiple organizations of really large and in the middle too. We have another question that came in that was asking, are organizations who have received funding from the Lewis Prize in the past, are they eligible to apply again? The answer to that is yes, you are very much eligible to answer again if you've received funding from us. The organizations that have received funding that aren't eligible are organizations that have received 500,000. So there's like 12 of those organizations out there. If you've received the full 500,000 from us, you're not eligible, but any smaller amounts, you are very eligible to apply. Alexis, will you do the next question about board of directors percentage?
Yeah, so the next question is, how do we calculate the 40% of your board of directors and your management staff residing in represent the community served if we are nationally based with programs in over 5 communities across the US? That's a great question. I would say, actually, Annette, would you mind taking this on? Yeah, I just want to be sure that I get it right. Yeah,
definitely. Great question. So we do ask, yes, 40% of your board of directors residing and representing the community. What does that mean? It's pretty open, and the work that your organization does is unique. And so we don't know if it's place-based, or it sounds like if it's across 5 different communities in the US, it's not. And so it's broader there. And so what does that mean for you all as an organization? And what does your board of directors represent that? What we mean by that, also why we have that as an eligibility, is we think the best CYD work and the best nonprofits that are doing systems change work and connecting with their community are those that are led by and are managed by those that are from their communities. And so if that's the sake for your organization, you're good to go. Do we sit down and check zip codes? We don't. If your application advances and we have a question of like, we don't think this does represent for some reason, we would have a conversation with you all and hear your guys' reason of how you do meet that eligibility. It'd be conversational because every organization is unique like that. We have a question in that says, how many applications do you expect to receive? We don't know every year. Last year, though, I'll tell you, we received 249 applications.
The next question is asking, do your organizations have to have their own operating space to apply? We see programs that have all different types of operating space and facilities, some with no facility at all. So really just apply with what you have. There's no requirement for a space to be able to accept the award.
Right. The next question says, does your organization have to have been in existence since 2018, or the specific music program have been in existence? Kind of one and the same. Yes, the answer is. So some organizations, let's say a Boys and Girls Club, they've been in existence since 1910, but the music program started in 2020, they would not meet eligibility. All right, so the music program has to have been in existence since at least 2018. Likely the organization as well, but some organizations they're not all the same, right? Of how governance works and how start dates work. So if yours is a little off, your question, if we're not being clear on that for your specific organization, please reach out to us and we'll try to clarify with your specific circumstances. But yes, music program and organization before 2018. The next question is asking about our eligibility. Around 50% of the programming needing to be music related. And so what does that specifically mean? We have that question for organizations specific or for programs specifically that might be an after school program that does school tutoring and music programming and something else. X, Y, and Z. And so we just ask, as far as like those young people that are involved in the music programming, that their time is at least 50% of it is in active music making and active music learning. And so again, I'll just use the Boys and Girls Club example. Probably a Boys and Girls Club is not 50% music based because they do so many different sports and other arts things. But if they have a music program, and in that music program, the young people are actively involved in music making for at least 50% of the time, then they meet our eligibility.
One question is dance considered a music entity? Though dance is incredible and a lot of our programs do offer dance programming, we are looking for those music genre, instrument playing, beat building specific programs. So yes.
Yes, I will add, dance as well as musical theater does not meet eligibility for Lewis Prize.
Next question, if an organization uses a dual leadership model, should both leaders co-write the application? Yes, we have seen that where we have, as long as both leaders themselves are overseen by the board of directors, that's who they report to, we have seen the model where there's a co-leader write-in for that. And also in terms of having two leaders, you can split up those different leadership eligibility requirements between those two to make sure that you do meet those as well. And then alongside that, I made a login, but I'm not the executive director. Do I need them to make a new login? I believe so. Annette, can you verify that?
Yes or no? I'm not going to go hard answer on that one. We don't want to cause you to do extra work. So if you already made it, just give the ED your login if that's okay. That would be great.
Yeah.
And there's a spot in the application too for an additional email to be added. If you make sure that their email address is added there, any correspondence that the Lewis Prize gives to the applicants, it'll be to the login name as well as that additional email that is listed. Actually, I was just told by my supervisor, no, we do need the ED to make the login. So please scratch what I just said. ED absolutely needs to make that login. It doesn't take long to make another login. Please do that. Thank you.
Yeah, the thing is your answers won't be auto-populated, so that can be a little bit of a bummer, but just move those over and just move forward with that. Yeah, because we do have the groups, they're pretty much grouped by the applicant or the leader. So it helps us best to see the leader's name aside for the name. Yeah.
That's very true. Thank you.
Yeah. There is also a question about when you say that the leader must respond to the questions, does this mean other members of the team cannot help or edit responses? I mean, I wouldn't say that per se. Of course, we'd love to have, your team support you in building that, but the voice of the application, the words, the bulk of it needs to be from the leader. And that correct about that? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Go ahead, please, Annalise.
Yeah, I just saw the question about my best sample is from 2018, but instructions say last 2 years. We did not have live programs during the pandemic. Will the 2018 clip suffice? Yes, I believe so. Annette, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do not think that there needs to be a specific date that you need to grab that clip from. We just really want to see the youth in action.
Actually, there is though. So yes, we do. That's all right. We do need a musical sample from the last 2 years. So we understand stuff has happened during the pandemic and programming looked differently, but we do need those musical uploads to be from the last 2 years. As Annalise though did share, in her perspective as an application reviewer, that we don't need like fancy production. And so if you could even just go and use your smartphone, borrow a smartphone and get footage of your young people performing even in the next week, and it shows those characteristics that we're looking for, that's great. That's great stuff.
So next question I'm seeing here is just to confirm that the grant supports programs that are music videos, recording arts, creative music, like music technology, songwriting, and isn't just restricted to music classes. So I'm assuming by that you mean like those like actual classroom setting instrument-based classes. No, so we have a very, very large amount of our awardees that do song production, music production as a bulk of the work that they do with young people. So it doesn't need to be those more, I guess, classic leaning music courses in your programming. And then also just to clarify again about the dual leadership model and sharing eligibility requirements to co-apply. The question is, do they both need to check all the requirements? So reporting to the board, living in the area, and being in the position since 2021, you can share those requirements throughout the two leaders. So, you know, both leaders can have all three of those, or both leaders do need to report to the board as a leadership model, but one leader can live in the area, one cannot. One could be more recent or a long-standing leader, and one can be from 2021. Both leaders need to be in the position for at least 2 years before this application cycle, so by 2021. But in terms of like living in the area, one cannot and one can.
The next question is asking, can the leader of the organization also be a member of the board? I would say in a traditional nonprofit, sometimes that's the case and sometimes it's not. So that sounds really specific. Please, if this is your question, if you would email us more context of the leadership model of your organization, we'd love to help you answer that question.
With the next question, it says, some of my programs are in school, some are out of school. Would I be eligible? Is there a percent that should be out of school? Once again, correct me if I'm wrong on that. I do not believe that there is this percent that should be out of school. Yeah, just circling back, I think that the main point of it is to serve the youth and to emphasize ready on them. So yeah, I think you're good.
What a great answer. Yes. The next question is saying, our organization acquired a music program and they operate under their own tax ID. However, our board is now their board as we are rebuilding. Is that an issue? This sounds, again, like a really specific thing to this organization. There's some context missing from it that isn't clear from this question, which is fine. And so we just encourage, if this was your question, if you would send us that through our contact page. With some more details, or we can go back and forth on that. We'd love to help answer that for you. think we have time for about 2 more questions. And so this next one says that we have a program that is delivered to some participants after school hours and to some during school hours to avoid digital access inequities or who may not have a safe place at home. However, this is our most impactful and largest CYD program. Can we include this program in our application? How I would answer this is that the Lewis Prize Accelerator Awards application is not asking about specific programs. It's really asking about your entire organization and the entire work that your organization does in your community. And so please include that program as you're talking about your holistic work in the organization.
Yeah, I see a question here about in terms of identifying working in civic systems and child welfare. And are we asking holistically or specifically? And specifically, would you mind giving an example? We are asking, I think, a little bit of both, right? We're looking to see how your work contributes to the overall impact of child welfare, I guess, best practice or the impact of child welfare work in your community, but also specifically with your program, is there something that your program is doing with either a partner or programmatically or with supporting your youth that has a direct impact on child welfare practices or is impacting how child welfare looks in your community? And for an example, Annette, would you have one you think that comes off the top of your head? Or
that's a great question. I think a lot of times we think about child welfare specifically of in systems like foster care system and things like that. And in the world of foster care today, child welfare system is so much more and family oriented and things like that. So I can't think of a specific example. No.
not right now.
I'd like to take the next question, if you don't mind.
Please.
So I see the upcoming question is, how can institutions serving majority white areas demonstrate ready? So from my experience as a application reader and as well as having had been in different nonprofits in the past, I personally wouldn't want to tell you how to run your organization, but I would say that from my experience, I believe that everybody should know about Ready and everybody should practice CYD practices. So I would say definitely that would be something that would be more of an introspective observation about you and your organization. I don't think that's something that we could give you advice about, unfortunately.
All right. And let's go with our last question. I think it's going to be, if organizations were semifinalists in the past, what help can you offer to have them stand out? You know, if your organization was a semifinalist in the past, congratulations, stuff stood out for sure in your work and your application. Applications this year, every year, are read by themselves, but by external reviewers. And our external review team, about a third of them have been reviewers in the past and 2/3 of them are brand new. We don't give our reviewers a list of organizations that advanced in the past. And so it's read fresh and it's read on its own. So the best advice we can give to past semifinalists as well as brand new applicants is to just present your holistic full selves in these applications. Write about the work of the entire organization. Tell us about how your young people are leaders, how you're giving them a platform to just really shine. Tell us how music is the platform of that, how you're linking arms with community partners. That's what we want to hear. That's what the reviewers want to hear and read about. you guys just do incredible work. It is just really a beautiful thing to get to read about it in these applications. Thank you for sharing about it. It inspires me and has my brain thinking of all kinds of neat and cool ideas that are taking place. So that's our advice to everybody. Just bring your full selves to it. We are going to wrap up now. We have some questions we didn't get to, but like we shared, we have recorded all these questions and we are going to answer them and send them out as a follow-up to anyone who RSVP'd, as well as give you the slide deck and a recording of this as well. Thank you guys for joining us. We at the Lewis Prize, like we said, thank you. We are inspired by your work. It's a joy to just offer support and be here for you guys.
And please follow us on our socials. Please check us out on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Please use our hashtags as well. Check out our website. That's where we'll be. You find a lot of our publications and our resources as well. So please stay connected with us and look forward to what we're seeing and doing in the future. It's very, very exciting. So thank you to everyone that's come with us today. It's been a pleasure.